Don't you hate it? Always having to pick the meta because everyone else does it? Well, what if I told you that you could create your own meta? You've probably never really thought out of the box and didn't consider strange rune choices or unique build paths that you've never seen before. In this video I will give you 10 very final meta picks that are actually pretty good. All but one of the builds I actually invented myself, and of course I tested them out. Not every game went as well as the others, but I didn't have a single game where I didn't have fun, which is precisely the point of these builds. Now, I won't hold you any longer, so let's hop right into the first pick. I'm starting off with a pretty solid pick that you might have seen before. It's full Lethality Caitlyn. This one has recently become more and more popular, and it makes sense, because it's really good and it's just amazingly fun. For runes, I started off by going the runes that you typically go on Lethality Jhin. For items, I built Deathblade into Collector into Axiom Arc, which are the core components, and then finished it off with LDR and Bloodthirster. For boots, I went Ionian boots as I really wanted to go all in on my abilities, but you can also just go Berserker Grease if you like. Now, this build was already pretty solid, but I soon realized that there's actually a better rune. It's First Strike. I used this rune a bit, and I can tell you, it is better. It just makes more sense in general as well to go Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm instead of just going Presence of Mind and Bloodline. As you can clearly see from the clips, the damage you can deal is insane. As you can see here, if you're fit enough, you can even one-shot people. This build is already really good, though it can get even better. You can simply swap the Deathblade for Ghostblade, which will make Caitlyn's ult do even more damage on full HP enemies. Deathblade is better at finishing off people, but Ghostblade is better overall because it does more damage to full HP enemies as well. Before I talk about the next pick, I would like to say that you shouldn't first try this in rank. These are good picks, but usually it's not a smart idea the first time, even if you have played the champion before. Practice them in a normal game like I did, and if you feel comfortable and only when you do, then you can try them in rank. This is not only for the sake of your LP, but also for the sake of your account. One day I thought, let's get creative. One of my most surprisingly good picks is Bruiser Ekko. I tried it mainly in the jungle, but also on top lane. I'll get to top lane in a bit, but I'll first talk about jungle. You start off with Moss Stomper, followed by Nashor's Tooth, but then you go Ionian Boots, followed by Divine Sunderer into Sterak's into Spirit Visage, finished with Gargoyle Stoneblade. Conqueror is also a core part of your build since it can really ramp up your damage. This build allows you to fight very long, extended fights, which is exactly why you take Conqueror. Now, if you see the entire build, you might get why you still go Nashor's Tooth. It's the base damage you need to still deal good damage, but also getting great attack speed to ramp up your Conqueror very fast, and also giving you fast jungle clear. You take Ability Haste boots so your cooldowns are lower, so you can use your Spellblade of Divine Sunderer more often. Just like your W, Sterak's provide you with a big shield, tanking plenty of damage before you even need to ult. After those big 2 shields have finally been broken and you're close to dying, you can still ult or even gargle if it's really late game. While these shields are all happening, you're still healing off Conqueror, and more importantly, you're Divine. If you already think this is crazy, it gets even crazier. By going Revitalize and Spirit Visage, you empower all of these shields and all of these heals even more. This build is really good, but you have to keep in mind to not waste your ult before Staircase goes off, and you also need to forget everything you know about full AP Ekko, since you won't be able to one-shot, though you'll be unable to get one-shot yourself. Now, you can also try this on top lane with Ghost TP, and the build is basically the same, except you could go change your Nashor's Tooth to Deadman's Blade since you don't really need the jungle clear, but besides that, everything is the same as in jungle. Now, another pick that's really great is full AP Galio. Usually people like to go Aftershock with some AP items, and this build allows you to be a tanky AP support, but you can't really carry. Instead of going Everfrost and Zhonya's, consider going full AP. Just like Everfrost, Protobelt allows you to do amazing engages. Usually great engages would mean that your allies could finish them off, but with this build there's no need for that. You straight up one-shot the enemies before your allies can even blink. For the build, you can just build like your regular AP assassin like Akali. The standard build would be Protobelt, Sorgwit, Shadow Flame, and then Zhonya's or Banshees, depending on what the enemy has, but preferably Banshees since Galio's damage scales with Mark. And then you finish it off with Deathcap and Void Staff. Also, don't be afraid to buy Darksteel when you're head early. Together with these runes, Sudden Impact, Electrocute, and Gathering Storm being the most important ones, your enemies won't be able to catch you break. The next one might arise some questions because it's Iceborn Gaunlet Fizz. I randomly came to the idea that this item could actually work on Fizz, since it has a nice slow that allows you to do your W empowered auto attacks more often, while also doing Spellblade damage. The tankiness it provides can also be really nice. Now, normal players would just stop here and just build some AP with this, which is probably actually better, but I went even further. I followed this up with the tanky AP item Seraph's Embrace since it gives you lots of HP and also a big shield. Though the strange thing is that I did it well in all of these games while still building this and even more. I think Electrocute and the high base damage of Fizz are the reason that you can build this tanky and still deal a lot of damage. For the build, you start Doran Shield and buy Tear of Goddess and Dark Seal. Your next component should be Jhin. With these 3 items you can really try to perma-bully your opponent to threaten a Dark Seal stack whilst also just stacking your tier. Then you try to finish Iceborn Gaunlet as soon as you can, followed up with Ionian Boots or Sorcerer Boots. I want Ionian Boots every time because I like to have my cooldowns even lower than they already are. But I have to admit that Sorcerer Boots are probably the best choice. The next thing you do is upgrading your Tear of Goddess into Seraph's Embrace, followed up by Abyssal Mask. Your next item is either Zhonya's or Banshees, but you can also just go both if you want. The smart choice is to no end this build with Void Staff, but if they have a lot of AD, you can go Frozen Heart or Randuin's, and if they have a lot of AP, you just finish with Force of Nature. Iceborn Gaunlet is surprisingly strong on this champion and would probably be even better if you finish it off with full AP after, but I'll leave it up to you to test that. Now, some of you may or may not have seen my video about mathematically correct Jhin, but that's exactly what the next pick is. I made a full in-depth video about this, which I highly suggest you watch if you're interested in Jhin, even in the slightest. Now, to briefly explain it, you basically go Hell of Blades and try to build as much AD and attack speed as you can to maximize your damage. Since then, the items have been changed, but I have replaced them with new ones. For those of you who don't know what Hell of Blades does, it basically gives you a lot of attack speed every single fight for a very solid amount of time. And the thing is, attack speed for Jhin translates into movement speed on crits and most importantly, a lot of attack damage. Now, I have tested a lot of Jhin builds and anything works really. Usually I just go Dark Harvest with Ghostblade into Collector into some utility crit items like RFC, Stormrazer or Bloodthirster. But one game I decided to change some items and I really just tried anything. You can probably say I tried every single crit item in the game that had even the slightest bit of attack speed in it. If you're on a great early game, you can start with the Ghostblade and Collector. Now for boots, if you don't need the anti-slow from Swifties, you can go Berserker Greaves for maximal damage. Again, if you want the full explanation, you can find the video linked in the description down below. Now, if you want to build for lagging from the start, you should go Galforce into Static Shift and of course still building attack speed boots. If by now you're not ahead, you can build RFC and Stormrazer, which are the safe options, but if you are ahead, you can go Kraken Slayer into Stormrazer. Always finish the build with Bloodthirster since it gives 95 AD at level 18. Now, if you are full build, start by selling your boots and then sell your low attack speed items like Collector and RFC. You should change these items with items that give you better scaling. Now for the full build, it doesn't really matter how you got there, but you should always finish with something like Galforce or Ghostblade, Static Shift, Stormrazer, Kraken Slayer, Phantom Dancer and Bloodthirster. This pick is really good because the build and the way you get to it are really flexible. You can also go items like Runans, Manamune, Wit's End, Mercildier Scimitar, but also a special one, Death's Dance. Death's Dance kills with bonus AD, so if you want an insane heal every time you get a kill, you should go that. Just like on Caitlyn, you can also go Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm instead of Presence of Mind and Bloodline, but I suggest you fool around a bit and find out what fits you best. Quick break here. Before going to the next pick, if you are going to test any of my picks, be sure to comment how good or bad it went. If you have any other of meta picks, even if it's by one item or one rune, be sure to comment it down below. I'll probably play every suggestion and who knows, maybe your pick will be in the next video. But now, back to the list. If you watch League streamers or YouTubers, you might have heard of Thebausffs, also known as a Challenger Troll. If you have heard of him, you might have also heard about his infamous AP Irelia build. Many people criticize him about it, which he arguably deserves, but you can't deny that it can deal damage, which is exactly why this pick is fun. The build and runes are always the same. You start Girl, then go Night Harvester, Sorcery Boots, Shadow Flame, Horizon Focus, Death Cap into Void Staff. This is the build he always used to run, though after not playing it for months, he recently uploaded a video of playing it again with another build, so I'll just link that down below in the description so you can copy the build if you want. I personally haven't really won a lot of games with it, but it's just a really fun pick to play with friends in normal games. Though if you do play it, be sure to max W first, followed by E. I also tried First Strike, but it's just way too inconsistent since you usually get hit first. Your main strength is that your W blocks a lot of damage and it scales with AP, while also doing insane damage when you charge it. Your E also deals decent damage and your ult is the bomb. It deals insane damage on impact and also when you try to escape it. Now, a build you don't really see anymore is Bruiser builds on AD Assassins. Kha'Zix and Talon used to build this build when Assassins and mainly their items just sucked. Unsurprisingly, both builds still work on both champions today. Now, I'll count these as one pick since it's really just the same concept. They are both relatively mobile AD assassins on which you just build bruiser items like Core Drinker, Spirit Trojan, Black Cleaver, followed by Sterix and Dap Dance or Maw. For Kha'Zix, you usually throw a Shirilda's Grudge in there, also sometimes building Edge of Night. You can of course also build situational items like Silvermere Dawn aka QSS, Serpent's Fang or Umbral Glaive, though if you want to build Umbral Glaive, you shouldn't really do that since you won't have Zombie Ward. And about the runes, you go Conqueror and Resolve on both champions. Of course, Kha'Zix can only be played in jungle, though on the other hand, Talon can go both mid lane and jungle. Being tanky on these champions is just really fun because you get to live longer while still going where you please. Now, this pick is kind of similar to the previous one, but I do want to talk about it apart from the other ones, since this is not just an AD assassin going Bruiser. This time it's an AP assassin going AD Bruiser. I'm talking about Akali, my one trick. There was once a time where Gordrinker was just plainly broken and AP was just kinda bad. Though that was a long time ago, probably more than over a year. Even though it was such a long time ago, the AD build never really left my mind and I still play it this day. I still play AP more often, but games where I find our team to be too squishy or the enemy team to be too tanky, I just build AD. Normally if you want to counter tanks or bruisers, you should go Riftmaker, but I don't think that item is quite good on Akali, so I just go AD instead. For those of you that don't know what AD Akali does, basically Akali's scaling scales amazingly with AD, sometimes even better than the AP part. The only ability that doesn't scale with AD is her recast R. Her R2 for some reason doesn't scale with AD, though her R1 scales more with AD than AP. Before I tell you the full build, you should always go Sorcerer Boots on this, since Akali still deals magic damage even though you build AD. And now for the full Bruiser build, you go Gordrinker, Sorcerer Boots, Spirit of Trojan, Sterak's, Demonic Embrace and Void Staff. And once again, you deal magic damage, so you don't go Black Cleaver. You can also go Ravenous Hydra first item for an insane clear, and then you just skip Sterak's and Demonic and build Shadow Flame instead. With this build you go Presence of Mind, though be careful because you're really squishy. And if you don't feel comfortable being that squishy but you still want the wave clear, just go Death Dance or something. You can also buy Dark Seal if you want, and you can even upgrade it to Magi Soul Sealer. Oh, and if you got a squishy Ravenous build, you should end as soon as you can, because I was 21-3 in this game and still lost because you just fall off with this build. Though if you go the regular AD Bruiser build on Akali, you should be fine in the late game. Now, the 9th pick is not per se about a champion, but about a playstyle. This strategy is all about the build and how you use it. It's a full split push strategy where you build for turrets by going Trinity Force into Hellbreaker. Of course you can't just ignore the existence of the enemy champions, so you still can go items like Black Cleaver or Titanic Hydra to make sure that you can still win fights against them. This strategy works on bruisers like Garen, Tryndamere or Yorick, but also on Sett, Volibear, Gangplank and even Sion. The build usually goes as the following. You always go Trinity Force into Hellbreaker no matter the matchup, and your boots depend on the matchup and your champion. For example, Garen should go attack speed boots, so his E clears away faster, while other champions would just build armor boots or tenacity boots according to the enemy team. If you're playing against a champion like Nessus, you can of course just build boots of swiftness, since it also just gives a lot of base movement speed. Now, after Hellbreaker, you can just fill the build with Black Cleaver, Deadman, Sterak, Spirit Visage, and just about any other tank or bruiser item. What items you finish this build with just really depends on the champion you are playing and what they usually go, and also just the matchups. Just like the items, the runes and summoner spells really depend on your champion. So I'll go over some bruiser champions and just give you the build and runes you should go. I'll start off with the most broken one, Garen. You go phase rush on him with Ghost and TP, and when you feel like running away, you either Ghost or you either go in and do auto QE or Q auto E to sprint away with phase rush. You can also go it on Gangplank, but I don't really think it's that good, so I don't recommend it, but if you do want to go it, you go Grasp, and you can also go Fimbulwinter, since it's a really fun item because it procs on your E. For Volibear, you do have to go PTA, and you just go Spirit Visage and Sterak, since these items are just solid on him. On Yorick, you go Cyrilda Scratch and just E anyone that gets close to you. Sion just builds some extra HP and extra damage like Titanic Hydra or Sterak's. Tryndamere is a little exception because you can go Kraken Slayer before building Trinity Force and Hellbreaker. The last one I'm gonna tell you about is Ahri, but I won't get in depth on that since I'll make a separate video on that soon. It basically works because she has a lot of low cooldown abilities that she can use to proc Trinity Force a lot. Also, on any of these picks you should try to take Demolish, but if you can't, that's no problem. Now, for the 10th and last place, I'll just give you some picks I tried, but not any more than that. This is just to give you some inspiration of what stuff you could try and figure out on your own. I tried Nidalee top with Grasp and Divine, and it didn't go that bad, but it didn't go that good either. The idea was to give me some heavy AD damage with items like Divine and Sterak's and even Deathman's Blade, and that I would just Grasp as a human and then transform into Tiger form to proc it like I was melee. They surrendered at 15 and I didn't really bother playing it again. I also played Soraka top with a tanky AP build, which I was going to finish with Static and something like Redemption. It was kind of fun because I had a lot of heals and also I could just bully my lane opponent, but it was against an Akali, so it didn't really work as well because Akali is not like your everyday top laner. Though if you would be to play against an actual top laner like Ornn or Sion, I could see this work. I also tried Bruiser Rengar on top lane, but I played against Garen and he didn't really seem bothered by my health, damage or healing. So to put it lightly, it didn't really go that well, but it was against a Garen and I'm pretty sure that Garen is a hard hunter of Rengar. After that game, I didn't try it anymore, but I'm pretty sure it works because I've seen Rengar one-tricks use it. I also have some other picks that I thought about but didn't try, but you could try them. Some fun picks would be Crit Olaf or Crit Thresh, but you could also try Lethality on both of them. I don't know which one would be best. On hit attack speed Lulu, full AP Mumu and Malphite of course, Lethality Fiora, full AP Jax and just way more. If there's one thing I hope you learned from this video, it is thinking outside of the box. Now, this is all I got for you at the moment, but be sure to try any of these picks yourself before preseason hits, because not all of these items are here to stay in 2024. And if you have any other of meta picks yourself or tried mine, be sure to comment how good or bad it went and what you would change. And even if you won't try any of these picks, I really just hope you enjoyed the video. Also, if this video does well, I will probably make a new and better video about the off-meta picks in Season 14 with the item changes. If you're interested in that or any other League or Valorant content, don't hesitate to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.